We are back here on KOB4 covering the presidential visit to New Mexico. President Joe Biden is now in our state. Air Force One has landed at Kirtland Air Force Base. He's expected to step off any minute now as we see live video there. And there's the president on Air Force One. He arrived just a couple of minutes ago as scheduled in Albuquerque, expected here to go on this visit today and meet with many people in Santa Fe, as we expect the president here to be greeted by, we've seen it, several military members there on the ground at the Air Force Base ready to greet him, as well as many others. They'll be traveling up to Santa Fe. It will involve even more closures on I-25. Many of those are already in place, we are hearing, as the president will be making that trip north. He will be going up to Santa Fe to meet with many local officials, including the governor, including our entire New Mexico congressional delegation, which will be there as well. There are other officials there, including fire officials and some at the federal level too, with FEMA and the U.S. Forest Service. This visit is in part meant for the president to get an in-person briefing on our state's wildfires and the recovery efforts that are ongoing and which are on really a long road here in our state with all of these destructive wildfires that we've seen. Again, if you're just joining us, we are looking live at Air Force One at Kirtland Air Force Base, expecting President Joe Biden to step off any moment now and begin his visit as scheduled here in our state. And again, we have been hearing calls from lawmakers, from our congressional delegation, from the governor, that our state needs more federal aid, more federal help. Many have called on the president to do just that, and FEMA and other federal agencies. And again, this is all with the backdrop that this fire that you're seeing here on the left side of your screen, the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire, which has destroyed more than 430 homes in northern New Mexico, was a result of federal actions, federal prescribed burns from the U.S. Forest Service. They got out of control. A prescribed burn and a pile burn started two fires that merged and have caused all of this destruction. It's leading many to, again, raise questions of accountability of the U.S. Forest Service, of other federal leaders that are located here in our state, but also in Washington, D.C. So, again, the president is expected to be in Santa Fe today for, at the very least, a couple of hours. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, of course, a former New Mexico congresswoman, is also expected to be here as, again, recovery efforts in our state's wildfires will be the theme here. And again, you know, we're showing you video here on the left side of your screen. We've been showing these images now for more than 2 months. It was early April when the first of these two fires that ended up merging started, and the smoke that has been billowing around Las Vegas, the Pecos Wilderness, Mora County, San Miguel County, into Colfax County, and all of the homes that have been destroyed has been a topic here on our minds for quite some time. We will be interested to hear what President Biden has to say, if he is going to offer any new assistance, announce any new aid that is coming to our state, and these questions. And there he is, President Joe Biden is now stepping off of Air Force One. He is walking down the steps now, making his first steps onto New Mexico, at least first steps as president during his administration here. Arriving at Kirtland Air Force Base, we see many members of the military there to greet him. He is now on the ground. The president now beginning his visit that we will be covering throughout the day today. I'll tell you, we have team coverage of this. We have crews that are there at Kirtland Air Force Base, up in Santa Fe. That looks like Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, yeah, it is, who just greeted the president in person, as other officials are there speaking with him again ahead of the meetings which are really to take place in Santa Fe today. And we will be bringing you all aspects of this, including some other reaction from those of us here in New Mexico who have a stake in all of this, including families that have been impacted by these wildfires. The president expected to meet with some of those families today in Santa Fe for some period of time. Again, President Biden has just stepped off of Air Force One. If you're just joining us here, this is live video at Kirtland Air Force Base, where, as scheduled, the president is beginning his visit before going up to Santa Fe. And again, we want to say this again. If you have any plans to drive on I-25 in the next hour, there's very well could face delays because the president will be going up there. As you might expect, security is taken extremely seriously. We're actually not even able to look at the NM.dot cameras that are along that route from the Air Force Base up to Santa Fe. And it looks like we're looking at U.S. senators from New Mexico, Ben Ray Lujan and Martin Heinrich, that he just shook their hands, as well as, again, the president getting greeted here by a number of people who have stepped off. That might be Teresa Ledger Fernandez. You know, I apologize. We're looking at the back of everyone's head here from our point of view. We will, again, we are covering the entirety of his visit. We will have updates on exactly, who he is speaking to. We know he is set to meet with our entire congressional delegation, and we'll be trying to learn what the nature of those conversations might be like. You're seeing Representative Ledger Fernandez there. She's been one of our lawmakers whose calls have been loud and numerous for the federal government to really, as the president's giving her a hug there, to have the federal government continue to step in and provide the aid that we need. Again, we're seeing smiles and handshakes here, but the backdrop of this presidential visit is these wildfires, these destructive and massive wildfires that are burning in our state. So again, the president is at Kirtland Air Force Base as we are seeing this live video. He'll be traveling up to Santa Fe to meet with many local officials. And we have a team in Santa Fe that will be there covering what we are able to see. There was, again, as you might imagine, restricted access for where he will be in Santa Fe. There will be cameras there, and we expect to see some of what the president is doing and who he is speaking with. Again, it looks like a couple of our members of our congressional delegation there. There's the governor stepping back into this conversation. We are certainly eager to hear what they are speaking about after they greet each other and perhaps get down to business, as we might learn more today about federal aid that is coming our way. Again, we're back on the air with any remarks that the president has if he steps in front of cameras to make them. Again, we've been telling you, he said to have conversations with many people today. If he does step in front of cameras to give some remarks, if you continue to watch us here on KOB4, we will be able to break in. We'll be able to show you his remarks live. Again, we are certainly eager to hear whatever the president has to say here in person in our state. And we'll be back on the air at 6 o'clock for our next newscast with full coverage of this visit, of who the president is speaking with, and the nature of the status of the federal aid from FEMA, from the federal government, that we hope continues to come our way here in New Mexico to help the hundreds of families whose homes have been destroyed, whose livelihoods have been destroyed or knocked off track as a result of these fires, particularly, again, the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire. This fire continues to burn. As we told you a few minutes ago, if you were watching, Air Force One, as we watched its track, did appear to fly over this fire and the burn scar. So here's the route again for you as it made its way into New Mexico airspace. This is following the path near Las Vegas, north, making loops around this fire that has, burned hundreds of homes within 500 square miles. It got to a point where it was the largest fire in New Mexico's history. It appears the president was able to see that before the wheels touched down there on Kirtland Air Force Base. Again, as we see live video, again, the president speaking with Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, members of our congressional delegation that appears to include Senators Martin Heinrich and Ben Ray Lujan, as well as Representative Teresa Ledger Fernandez. We know that Representative Melanie Stansberry is expected to be there, as well as the rest of our congressional delegation in these meetings that are, again, set to take place in Santa Fe. This is how the White House kind of structured these plans, the president landing in Albuquerque and then making that drive up to Santa Fe to be at one of the home bases of operations for the firefighting efforts for the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire, but also for all of our recovery efforts and being able to assist people as, again, the road to recovery for so many is just beginning. Again, this conversation here on the ground looks like it is continuing here at Kirtland Air Force Base, as we know many members of the military we have seen in this vicinity as well, set to greet the president, who is, again, saying hi to many of our local officials here in New Mexico. And I want to say again that, the backdrop to all of this is that these very New Mexico officials who he is shaking hands with right now have been really calling for more action that can come from President Joe Biden, action that can come from FEMA in the form of emergency assistance. Lawmakers, other advocates, many officials throughout our state including the governor, want to make sure that New Mexico is not forgotten. We know that we are very far away from Washington, D.C., aren't we? And, you know, the president isn't out here very often. And this is Joe Biden's first trip to New Mexico as president. As we know, it looks like Navajo Nation president is meeting right now, is shaking hands with President Biden. Jonathan Nez, it looks like, is there speaking with the president. Again, we know there are many, many interested parties, officials in New Mexico that will be trying to get some of the president's time today and have these conversations. You know, in the case of Navajo Nation leaders, these conversations could very well extend past wildfires into other aid, other federal action that can be taken to help all of us here in New Mexico, as Native leaders across our state and Arizona have certainly been continuing to call for COVID relief aid, as we need to remember the pandemic is not quite over, and other actions for the president. So again, we are seeing President Joe Biden on the ground in New Mexico, there at Kirtland Air Force Base. It looks like he might be stepping into his motorcade now. He is set to drive up I-25 to Santa Fe. If you or anyone you know is going to be driving north or south on the interstate in the next hour, keep in mind you will be facing some delays. We already know that law enforcement members have been blocking off the entrances and exits onto and off of I-25 as part of security measures there. And it looks like Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is there in the car with the president. We thought that might be the case. We know our governor has worked closely with the Biden administration starting from when he was elected and setting up his administration and getting comfortable there in D.C. And we know she certainly, we expect her to want to get into the president's ear and get as much time as she can with him today. We can assume that part of their conversation will include the recovery from these destructive wildfires in our state and any action that he might be able to take today. Wow, wouldn't it be great if we had a microphone in that vehicle right now? We would love to be able to know what we're saying. And I'll tell you, as part of our team coverage today, we will be asking those questions. We will be in touch with the governor, with her office, and with our other lawmakers who will be speaking with the president to try to learn about the nature of these conversations and the questions that they have for the president today at this juncture, 2 months after these wildfires started, as they continue to burn and as hundreds of homes have been threatened here. We will be next on the air with any remarks from President Joe Biden today in Santa Fe if he steps in front of cameras. And of course, we will have a complete recap in our next newscast. That is from 6 to 7 o'clock here on KOB4. So again, please stay tuned for the rest of our coverage of this presidential visit to New Mexico.